So, what's up, Star Chasers, and welcome to another video. I had an idea on making a video about the topic of art blocks and how to overcome them. So, if you are an artist and you've faced art block, you probably know, how annoying it can be. Um, and here's sort of a formula that I have figured out when it comes to having an art block. So, especially when I was a teenager, I'd find that there'd be times where I'd have an art block where you really want to create something, but you just can't, no matter how much you want it to, and you find yourself kind of frustrated in your inability to create, even though you really want to. I have singled off the ideas into three main parts when it comes to identifying what it is with the art block that's holding you back. The first part is your own personal creativity, studying other people's styles, learning about techniques and drills. I think you might have a natural inclination to one of the 3 points, but in order to have a good balance, you need a little bit of the three. So when I say that, before I used to be very creative in that I would like to come up with my own characters and stories. I'd also like copy anime styles. There was a manga or anime I'd copy that particular style. I'd draw the characters, and you get to a certain point where perhaps your creativity might end up being influenced by the things you like. And so for me, it's anime, but also if you like a particular artist, whether they're an illustrator or someone more traditional, you tend to get a little bit of their style influencing your work. Now, the third point has to do with actual technical skill and drills. And this is something I've learned later on in my career, is sometimes your actual skill can't keep up with your imagination. When you are an artist, you're going to have to face the fact that your imagination will always be better than anything you could ever create it as it is. If you have to keep fighting over the fact that your skills are never going to reach the same level as where your imagination is, you'll never win. The whole idea of your imagination just being infinitely higher is that you always have something to strive towards. In the example of me as a teen, I had a lot of ideas. I had influence from watching anime and reading manga to have a bit of a style influence. But when it came to technique, I tended to reach a plateau. This is what I mean by you have to identify one of the 3 points where you find a little bit of a weakness. In that case, I'd have to kind of go over and read technical books, just like how to draw or techniques where you're doing drills. Perhaps you want to learn more from real life. So in this case, if I wanted to get better at drawing people, instead of using my imagination to come up with characters, you might want to just start looking at anatomy books, going to live drawing classes, or even if you're looking online, just looking for models and drawing real people. Even if your end goal is to be more stylistic, you want to draw more cartoon style characters, you really need the influence of understanding anatomy to get better. So this is what I mean by the third point, where you're working more on the technique, studying drills, or even real people to get better in that category. Now, as I said, you want to keep the 3 points even, so it could work in the other way around. If you are constantly just doing drills, if you stay at home and you only follow other people's styles, you're really not developing any strength or originality of your own. When that case happens, you want to strengthen your imagination more, push beyond physically see, come up with ideas of stories and characters, and push your technique. In terms of reference to other people or other shows, as I said, I really liked anime, but there's also a limit to that as well. If you only have one source of influence, you're just a fan artist. That can work for some people. Some people just like being a fan artist. But if you want to be a professional artist, there comes a point where you don't want to be copying other artist styles anymore. You want to be branching out. So for me, I went and just experienced life. So I like to travel, researching fashion. I'll even kind of watch fashion shows or save the fashion designs to be used for when I design characters, architectural styles. If I'm traveling and I visit different parts of the world, I'll have a little bit of an influence there. Even though you may be initially inspired by a certain artist or a certain TV show or anime or something like that, you want to go and live life a little bit so that you have something to inspire you. So when you actually do create your own works, you're getting that influence from a diverse range. So you're not even limiting it only to just what you see in terms of visual art. You're extending it and getting your influence from just different forms of life. For me, I like to listen to music when I draw, and depending on the genre of music or the artist I'm listening to, the theme of my art starts to inspire it, takes on characteristics of the music I listen to. When it comes to actually just starting to draw, when you have an art block, I find, well, for me and for other artists as well, you have a certain level of perfectionism you want to achieve, and you can't exactly get there. And so the pressure, you're feeling the pressure of it, of trying to create something really good, and everything that's coming out feels kind of like garbage. The first thing you want to do is just accept that your initial drawings will be kind of like garbage. If you have a sketchbook or a notebook, I find that the white pages can be quite intimidating. They're too pure and perfect. And depending on the quality of your art book, say you've gotten your notebook from an art store and you have really high quality paper, costs like a lot of money. You don't want to waste that valuable paper on a drawing where you're not sure what the quality would be. Under those circumstances, I'd say it's just best to start with something cheap where you don't have that initial pressure. You can either have a ream of computer paper, or say if you have a notebook with lines in it where it's paid like $1 for it. That's a good place to start, because anything you just draw, it takes away the pressure that you're wasting like resources, you're wasting good paper. You don't have to draw anything good. Let the first drawings be a bit garbagey. You want to just prime your imagination where you're just creating for the sake of it and you have no pressure towards producing something really good. And once you are relaxed a little bit more, say you've done some drawing drills or you've just drawing random things that, as I said, there's no intention to make it perfect. Once you get the flow of that happening, then you can switch back to your nice paper and your good materials and create something really cool. For me, what I like to do these days, I like creating my own notebooks. Now, when I do that, I actually dye the paper to be kind of brown with coffee and tea. They have stains and lines, which I find gives the paper a lot of character. And because I've prepared the paper in that way, I know that it's not perfect. It's no longer that pure white paper because of the coffee and the tea stains. There's drips, there's lines. And so before I even start doing any of the drawings, the paper is already, quote unquote, ruined. It's no longer that perfect white. It's brown, it's stained. And so for me, it takes a little bit of pressure off. It means that any, mark I make on the paper is not going to change that paper from being perfect because it wasn't perfect to begin with. That is my personal choice. Pre-stain my paper, but there are other ways to use this technique. You can just buy paper that already has lines, just a notebook, or they have different kinds of paper where it has a pattern on it. If it's really cheap, easy to throw away, such as butcher's paper or even wrapping paper, it means you can do a lot of drawings. Just get it out of your system, and that way you can then move on to nicer drawings afterwards. These days, I don't really get art block anymore, not unless it's a specific project that has a lot of pressure. If I find that, say, one of these three, categories is giving me a bit of trouble, I would jump between the three. So what I mean by that is if I feel as though I need to train a specific skill, I would go and study that particular technique. I'd work more on drills, on anatomy or perspective, for example. If I feel as though I'm getting a bit bored, I've done too many drills, well, then I might just do something where I let my imagination wander. I'll just design my own characters. Then, as well, if I find that I want to design my own characters, but I have no idea what I would like them to look like, I'd go and find reference to, say, other artists that I like, or even other influences that I find to be pretty cool, such as fashion design. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So, if you have any tips that you found that help you getting over art block, please comment below. In the comments, your ideas may help other artists. And, you know, if you found that my tips were helpful as well, just leave a comment and try them for yourselves and see if it works out. So, see you later. Bye, guys.